Hi, I'm Nikki Haverstock, and I thought I would talk about picking a genre. And specifically, this advice is probably for someone which I often see, are people saying, gosh, I have a character, but I don't really have a story, or I want to write a book, but I don't know where to start, or, how do you figure out what to put in the middle? Now, the problem is the middle is the book, so that is a big part of it, and I understand it's hard. The middle is hard because usually you kind of know how it ends and begins, and then you got to put a lot of stuff in the middle. But I'm going to recommend, this is my recommendation specifically for maybe other people will find it useful, but specifically for people who are going, gosh, I'd love to write a book and I don't even know where to start, or I don't really have an idea yet. And this is especially good for when I lived up north. I went to a creative writing elective at the local high school, and I talked to him, and there was a boy who had a very specific problem that I've seen iterations of it repeated over and over again, which is, in his case, he had a spaceship, and they were in space, and he had all of his characters, and they talked, but nothing was happening. He didn't have a plot. And so in his case, I said, well, why don't you start with a what if? Like, one morning they wake up, and there's an egg on a table. They don't know where it came from. They don't know what it is. So a good kind of short story arc would be them figuring out what it is. And that's a very common thing that you'll see in kind of like TV sitcoms or dramas or something. But I would say if you are going, gosh, I really want to write a book, and I want to see if I could write a book or whatever, I would recommend starting with, when we have the different genres, there's different rules around the genre. I'm gonna turn off my computer. I can see it. Oops, and it's distracting. Okay, so I'm gonna suggest, so there's different kinds of genres, and they have expectations and rules, and they're big ones, and they go down to little ones. Now, some of the genres, like fantasy, have to do with, it's very open-ended. It can be any kind of plot structure. And I'll explain what I mean by that. But it can be anything as long as it has fantasy elements, magic, creatures that aren't normal is a step away. Sci-fi can be anything that, we think of it as being outer space or in the future, but really it's anything that's kind of like, it's kind of science-based. Anyway, but those are very, very open. And then we have genres like romance, which have expectations around the plot. So in the simplest possible terms, romance is boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back. Now, of course, in modern day romance, it can be two boys, it can be two girls, it can be a girl and two werewolves, it can be 5 people in an equally polyamorous relationship, anything like that. But the idea is you start off separate. They can be married and divorced, they can be never have met, they can be childhood sweethearts. You have two, I'm saying two for the sake of not going through every iteration. Let's just say it's 2 people. It's the most common kind of structure is 2 people. 2 people apart, the story, they come together and apart, and then you end with them for a happily ever after. That is what romance, capital R, romance genre is. Okay, another one that is very, I'm going to say formulaic, and that sounds like an insult, but I'm just saying that people who read the genre as fans of the genre specifically have these expectations, and they enjoy it. I enjoy romance. I enjoy mystery, which is the second one. That's what I write, which is somewhere usually in the first third, modern books or even more so, Agatha Christie a little bit later, someone dies. At the end, you solve it. The killer gets caught or killed, but it somehow pays for their crime. They can't, in a mystery, capital M mystery, the killer cannot get away. Maybe one of the killers can get away, but justice has to be served at the end. They're usually a murder in the kind of mysteries that I write, at least. They tend to be murder, but you can also do other high stakes. There's also and then those are the 2 that I am most familiar with. And the nice thing about those is that hopefully instantly you already go, oh, I kind of get it. I get what goes in the middle. So the romance, they meet or they've known each other. And then as a friend said, if you spend the whole rest of the book trying to keep them apart until the end, you let them be together. So maybe her job wants her to move. Maybe his past heartaches keep him from wanting to be vulnerable. In a mystery, I think personally mysteries are the easiest because you go, okay, so someone died. Okay, who are the kid because they want to inherit, the new wife because it's always the spouse, the neighbor across the street that she had a grudge with. So you just really, the whole middle of the book is you presenting options, presenting ways possibly they could have done it, maybe closing off some variations, and then at the end there's the clue that you missed the whole way through, and now you catch them in the lie and you prove your point. And so it's a really great way to start. So if you are thinking, I want to write a book, but I just kind of don't even understand how you put together a story structure, those are two great places to start. There's also a benefit. I have two books I'm going to recommend. Boom! I read both of them. Romancing the Beat by Gwen Hayes is a very, very popular book for romance. It goes through all of the beats. It's the very classic hero structure, but it's specifically adapted in a way for romance writers. Remember, capital R romance. And the reason I say that is because you might say, oh, romance, but plenty of romances, they die at the end. That's technically a different genre. Not saying it's good or bad, it's just a matter of it's like calling a pineapple an apple. It's like, it may have some similar wordings around it, but it's a very different fruit, and if you tell someone this is an apple and they bite into a pineapple, they're going to be like, this is not, why did you tell me it was an apple? Anyway. Or pineapple, or whatever it is. The other one is by Sarah Rosette. I have a note on here. And this is specifically for cozy mysteries, but it's a nice, good reference. Now, obviously, if you're going to write a book, now if you're never planning on publishing it, you just want to write a book, you just write whatever. But if you're planning on publishing it, or you're trying to get an agent or anything like that, these should be genres that you read. You really need to read them to understand. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to build a sandwich, but I'm never going to have eaten a sandwich. And so you're putting, I was once in New Zealand and I had a sandwich and it had a fried egg on it and a slice of orange, including the rind. And I was like, this is not what I consider normally a hamburger. Funny aside. But anyway, the idea is if you're looking to market a book and you want to sell it, you probably should have an idea of what you're trying to sell. So you shouldn't just be like, oh, I heard a sandwich is 2 pieces of bread with like a meat or something and some condiments, and so you get 2 pieces of French toast and you put jam. I don't know. I actually doesn't sound like the worst thing ever. But I mean, the idea is if you're trying to market something, you should read it. But I'm just talking about getting over that hump of writing a book and discovering if you can do it. So I highly recommend, these because they are very, very cut and dry. They are very, if you are lost at any point as to what to do next, this is a good way to kind of go. So this is my advice for someone who doesn't know what they want to write, who just is kind of, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, how would I, excuse me, how would I ever know what to put in the middle? Now the thing is, with both of these structures, you can add fantasy elements. You can do an urban fantasy and start with the structure of a mixed mystery. Your, the vampire next door wakes up and finds a dead werewolf in her front yard and decides she's going to try to solve it because everybody thinks it's an accident, but she just knows it was a murder. There you go. You have a paranormal cozy. You want to do a romance, but you want it to be set 500 years in the future, and an alien woman is on the run because she's a princess. She meets a handsome space pirate, and he offers to take her away for a certain amount of money. Hilarity and sexiness ensues. There you go. You have a sci-fi romance. So this is just sort of an idea, because occasionally people come along and ask me, how do I start? How do I get started in all this? Okay, thank you.